All right. Hi, everybody. Uh, my apologies for our technical difficulty, but I also would like to thank Weston, who problem solved it and fixed it. Let's all of you out there give Weston a hand. Good job, Weston. And I would just like to thank Weston for his work over the last week and helping us do these readings over the webinar and on YouTube, which is a more secure space. And I would like to just welcome anyone from the community who is coming to these readings. This is the Low Residency Creative Writing Program in Portland at PNCA. And we are in our second evening of readings, which our second evening of guest artist readings. Tomorrow, both Poupeh Missaghi and Daniela Naomi Molnar will be giving classes, and I'm really excited about them. And if anyone is interested in attending, you can go to the Creative Writing website and find my email address and get all of the nifty password information from me. I'll send it to you. So yes, tonight we have Poupeh and Daniela will read. Our first reader is, let me get the bio up, is Poupeh Missaghi. She is a writer, a translator, both into and out of Persian, a Symptotes Iran editor at large, and an educator. She holds a PhD in English and creative writing from the University of Denver, and an MA in creative writing from Johns Hopkins University, and an MA in translation studies. Her nonfiction, fiction, and translations have appeared in numerous journals, and she has several books of translation published in Iran. Her debut novel, which I highly recommend, is Transrelating House One. It was published by Coffee House Press this past February. Poupeh is currently a visiting assistant professor at the Department of Writing at the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, where she's coming from this reading. Let's welcome Poupeh. Hey.
Thanks, Jay, for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here. And thanks everyone for being here, even though I can't see you. But thanks for being here. And I'm so excited to be reading with you, Daniela. Okay, so what I'm going to do during my readings, I have been trying something different each time with the book. So the book is hybrid, and what I'm doing every time I try a different order of the text and a different combination of different sections of the book. So we'll see how this goes. So the order that I'm going to read from is not the order that if someone has the book, they would see the book in, and I'm not going to start from the beginning. So just to give you a bit of context, there is a layer which is a narrative layer, there's a documentary layer, there's also theory and criticism, there's a dream world layer, and some questions. So I'm gonna just like mix and match all of those. Okay. The moon is full, and on the terrace she has spread the white and pink floral cushions on the black metal chairs and a few cushions of rough nomadic style fabric on the stone floor. The moon is full up there in the sky, and the light of the few stars has faded in the face of its light. And some have filled their glasses with vodka and fruit juice, and some have brought the wine bottles and their glasses and plates and bowls of mezzes outside to the table, which is covered by a tablecloth that was once the fresh green of grass, but after weeks left under the blazing sun and in the dust from construction sites nearby, has faded to the green of the pistachios in the bowl of mixed nuts. And yet it has kept its dark blue dots, dots that are the color of the dark blue of the city night, the city on less polluted nights, on nights like tonight. The moon is full up there in the sky, and the tall metallic crane has fixed its leg in the earth of the huge pit where the once upon a time villa stood, off the main alley to the right of the building, and the crane has risen high, has reached its arm out to touch the round face of the lover moon that is sitting up there in the sky, all naked and stretched out, while the trees and the lights and the dust and the air and the noise of the city swan over the songs from the iPod in the living room, coming through the wide open French doors to where they all are now settling. The moon is full, and the man whom she doesn't know, who has come with a friend, whom she knows is a wonderful artist, but who is so full of himself, heatedly discusses the auctions and the pieces and the prices, the hands behind the scenes and the money laundering, the fake exports and the fake artworks, the figures and the names and the mix of colors and the strokes of brushes, the images of a nightmare, the room with a view of Dali's surrealism, the shade of a woman's intestines, the broken engine of an old beetle, the soul's shadows, the sewn eyes, the shattered statues, the face of the sun on an ochre wall, the cones tossed in a tar case on some Mediterranean sidewalk, black ink afloat on white paper, disrupting and concealing the image of the nightmare. The moon is full, and the woman listens carefully, trying to memorize his words, the names and the banknotes, thinking she needs to ask the friend who has brought this man to arrange a meeting so they can talk arts and statues, pretending she's listening not to him, but to the water rising from the small fountain in another corner of the terrace, looking at the cat's eyes and the hands and fingers and shoes and legs of the women and men all around, and the lights spilling over the terrace from inside the apartment. She smooths the white dress floating around her body and runs a hand through her short black hair and stares at the watch on the wrist of the man she has been desiring, the hand holding a digital camera, the fingers changing the settings, the eyes hidden behind the lens through which he is looking at the moon high up there in the sky, looking down on them. The light of the upstairs neighbor goes off, and the playlist comes to an end, and she hands the cat to the woman next to her, and she gets up and takes a few dirty plates and an empty bowl and her glass of wine to the kitchen. She cleans up a bit, brews some tea for later, puts together a tray of sweets and fruits, and prepares to go back outside. At the threshold, she almost bumps into him as he comes inside to put down his camera and go to the bathroom. And she takes in the scent of his cologne, and he asks her if she needs help, and she tastes the weight of her own breath and hears the muscles of his body. And the second is only a second, but it's longer than a second. And she says he can take the sweets and fruits outside, and he gives her his camera, and she sends him out again. She goes to the bathroom to pee, but forgets, and instead splashes water on her face and puts on more red lipstick. And before heading back to the terrace, she chooses another playlist and turns the volume down a bit and takes the poetry book from the shelf and her wine glass from the kitchen counter and walks out under the moon, so full up there in the night sky, slowly moving farther and farther away from the crane. Pumla Gobodo Madikizela, who served on the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission, suggests that collecting stories not only of harm, but also of context and of the drawn-out effects of violence and unjust systems may in some settings shed more light on what the problems are and how they might be addressed and redressed than would a legal trial. That's a quote quoted in Stauffer 2015. Corpse 10. I should just give a content advisory here, I guess. Corpse 10, age unknown, gender male, occupation university student, Date of death, 25th of Hordad, 1388, 15th of June, 2009. Place of death, University of Tehran dormitories, Amirabad Street, Tehran. Time of death, early hours of the day. Cause of death, several blows to the head and neck by electric baton. Date of burial, 25th of Hordad, 1388, 15th of June, 2009. Place of burial, Behesht Zahra Cemetery, Tehran. In front of the gate to campus, nighttime. Police, special forces, paramilitary forces, plainclothes forces. Unrest, slogans. Students stand. Forces try to enter. Students throw rocks. Forces throw rocks and tear gas. Fire. In the dorms, students get ready for bed. It's illegal for police, army, and other military and paramilitary forces to enter campus grounds. They enter. It's unclear who ordered the entry. Attackers in plain clothes, students in plain clothes, attackers in uniform. Fire here and there. Everyone runs. Someone films, students run. Attackers curse and beat them. In front of the library, fires burn, bones break, sounds of bullets and rocks, tear gas. The special forces beat students. The plainclothes forces ask them to stop. They curse, they arrest, they call out the names of Shiite imams, they film. Inside the building, they break glass, they break locks, they punch holes in the doors, they have axes and daggers, they have guns, they have electric batons, they force students to lie on the floor, they touch them to feel for knives and guns, they say. They search through possessions, they spread paper all around, they shuffle through, they break heads and hands, they stand in two lines along the hallway walls, they force students to run even with broken bones, they thrust their weapons out over their shields, they beat students, they threaten to hang, they threaten to rape, they arrest students, push them outside the building, drag them on the floor, beat them. Someone asks them to stop. They curse. They hold guns over students' heads and bodies. Someone orders them to film, to kill. Someone calls the students spoiled. Someone orders them to lie down. Students resist. They pile students up in a corner like meat, hands and legs and heads crumpled over one another in pajamas, bare chests, bare feet. They film the scene, they take pictures, they take students away, they beat them, students shout and ask them to stop. They beat them, students shout and ask why. Some students are left there wounded, unaided, watched over so they can't get away, left to the darkness. Others are taken to secret detention centers, one in a basement said to belong to the Interior Ministry. Students are tortured, humiliated when given water or food. Later, the links to the sources claiming documentation of the torture redirect to a page that cannot be found anymore. Electric batons are used on heads and necks. Students are killed. 5 are confirmed dead. He is 1. No official reports on the deaths, only the wounded are counted. The ones who survive are handed clean clothes before they leave detention. Concerns about how they look when they step out. Papers spread all around in dorm rooms and hallways, broken chairs, torn clothes, blood stains, broken plates and cups, bullet holes, black ash, torn books, overturned beds, overturned bookshelves, unpaired slippers and shoes, a sticker that says change half torn off the door. Students gone, students idling, students wandering. He and the other 4 students are buried secretly without the permission or presence of their families. The families are prohibited from speaking. The families are prohibited from holding funerals. I want to hold a moment of silence here, out of respect in memory. How to bear the void. how to bear loss on one's skin, on one's hair, on one's lashes, on one's nails, on one's nerves, on one's cells, in one's heart, on one's tongue, how to translate loss into language, how to survive loss, what is at the center of loss, at the center of life after loss, how much time needs to pass before mourning can become healing, can become living. How can we walk the distance that separates you and me, you and us, who became one and the other because a shared experience exploded into an abyss of unshared history, memory, story? How can we walk the distance and arrive on the other side alive and generous, capable of light and love, reaching in and reaching out with a touch and a tone that can make joy and be joy? Are we, as we walk, leaving the dead behind? Are we leaving ourselves behind? What about guilt? What about shame? Mine and yours, ours and yours. How to bear memory, how to bear witness. And then on the next page, you see like this drawing, and then the text beneath it reads, and what about witnessing, remembering, documenting, and archiving dreams? How to embrace and represent the endlessness of dreams, how to word the world of the unconscious and the subconscious, defined by its very own rules, defying all perimeters of storytelling and meaning making, accessible only through forever imperfect interpretations, translations, as yet indecipherable. Why should we tell the story of the dead? How should we search these deaths? How should we resurrect the dead? Should we? Can we? Are the dead really gone? Are the dead more present than the living? Their ghosts forever hovering, casting shadows, haunting the living, responsible for or indifferent to or helpless against their displacement? If these deaths have already been researched and documented, why another documentation? If the stories of these bodies have already been told, why tell them again? What is it about translating them anew? What is it about relating to them anew? What is the raison d'etre for these narratives? What is their use? I think I'm just going to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Poupeh. Beautiful reading.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Jay.
Our next reader is Daniela Naomi Molnar. She is a visual artist, poet, wilderness guide, educator, activist, eternal student. She founded the Art and Ecology program at the Pacific Northwest College of Art and is an active part of Signal Fire, an organization which provides opportunities for artists and creative agitators to engage with our remaining wildlands. She's an MFA candidate in poetry at Warren Wilson College. You can read some of her recent poems in Fugue, Moss, and Bomb Cyclone. A member of the third generation of the Holocaust and a daughter of immigrants, she lives in Portland, Oregon, on the unceded lands of the Clackamas, Cowlitz, Chinook, Multnomah, and other indigenous peoples. Let's welcome Daniela Naomi Molnar.
Thank you, Jay. I don't know if you knew when you scheduled us together how much resonance there is between what was just read and what I'm going to read, but there's a lot. One of my teachers always starts his readings by reading someone else's poem, and I think that's a really beautiful act and sort of moves against this idea that art is a zero-sum game, because it's not. So I'm going to read This is Carl Phillips's most recent book, which the entire book is phenomenal. I'm going to read a poem called Dirt Being Dirt by Carl Phillips. The orchard was on fire, but that didn't stop him from slowly walking straight into it, shirtless. You can see where the flames have foliaged, here especially his chest. Splashed by the moon, it almost looks like the latest proof that, while decoration is hardly ever necessary, it's rarely meaningless. The tuxedo's corsage, fog when lit scatteredly, swift from behind. Swing of a torch, the lone match struck, then wind shut. How far is instinct from a thing like belief? Not far, apparently. At what point is believing so close to knowing that any difference between the two isn't worth the fuss, finally? A tamer of wolves tames no foxes, he used to say, as if avoiding the question, but never meaning to. You broke it, now wear it broken. So that's Carl Phillips, his brilliance. If it's okay, I'm gonna share my screen for a moment because the manuscript I'm going to, oh man, forget it. It's making me do all these things. If anyone wants to see it, I'm happy to share images. The manuscript I'm going to read from is a visual verbal thing. So I wanted you all to see it, but Zoom is being challenging. So like Poupeh, I'm going to kind of skip around in this manuscript and read a few pages from the beginning, a few pages from the middle, and a few pages from the end. And content warning for the entire thing that I'm going to be reading. It deals with very challenging instances of violence. Rosalie takes my brother and I to the park down the street, and I race to the swings. Swing as high as I can, small legs horse kicking hot queen's air. Rosalie stands below, waving her arms and calling to me in multiple broken languages at once, garbled and urgent, her voice pained, a shriek, a wail, too high, too high. I stop kicking the air. The swing slacks and slows. I stand by her side. Her softness is what I recall. Yeno's baby blue Plymouth sedan slides through July heat. My brother and I in the sticky back seat, no seat belts, tumbling back and forth across the wide expanse, banging into each other, screams of delight all the way to Jones Beach where the sun trails cadenced water, where we eat melted babka and tomato salad flecked with sand. My grandfather's wide face is vacant, very pale, unsmiling in the hot, too bright sun. I reach for his huge hand, clutch one finger. He doesn't seem to notice. Martzi's shaking hand holds mine as we walk to shul on Saturday. I am dressed like a cupcake. I know I am a performance of cultural survival. His face beams, chin tilted high below his gray fedora. Though pretending makes me self-conscious, I try to believably play the role in which I've been cast. It seems to me I am not alive. Since all are dead, it seems impossible I shouldn't be also. All dead, Munette, Viva, Sylviane, Rosie, all the others. Can one come out of there alive? No, it wasn't possible. Mariette with her eyes like quiet water, eyes that did not see because they saw death in the depths of their quiet water. Yvette, no, it's not possible. I'm not alive. I see myself from outside this self, pretending to be alive. I'm not alive. I know this with an intimate, solitary knowledge. Charlotte Delbo wrote these words to a fellow survivor of Auschwitz many years after surviving and returning to what appeared to be a normal life. It's not possible. I'm living without being alive. I do what I must, because that's what people do. One pretends. They have the appearance of being alive. They come and go, choose, decide. All four of my grandparents, Rosalie, Olga, Martzi, and Yeno, survived the Holocaust. They survived, but they never lived again. I understood this. Even as a child, I saw and felt the unbreachable gulf between the living and the not living. I lived there, smiling up at their absent faces, sitting on their rigid laps, holding their cold hands. At meals, I'd recite the prayers and sing the songs I'd been taught, and dutifully eat all the chicken soup, stuffed cabbage, puliska, honey cake, stewed fruit, hoping that by chewing, by swallowing, by maintaining a sturdy, robust corporeality, I might somehow offer spiritual protection against the starving that would inevitably return. Sometimes these actions opened a temporary portal into living, signaled by a fleeting glance that didn't sink itself, or a lightness of gesture, or a smile that teetered between amusement and grief. The portal always closed, but its occasional presence made me keep trying. Presently, I am no longer alive. Nothing can fill the abyss between other people and myself, between myself and myself. Nothing can bridge this gulf nor narrow it. Once they realized they were defeated, the Nazis razed most of the concentration camps' buildings and covered the areas with newly planted pine trees, an attempt to greenwash the buried carnage. These pine trees have roots. These roots reach, detecting through wet, sensitive tips where to find food. The root tips curve around terracotta tiles, around bits of scapula and shards of gold rings. They are covered in tiny root hairs that extract water and minerals from the soil with the help of fungi, which can digest compounds the trees cannot. Most trees are mutualistic, relying on a vast mat of thin, white, conductive tubes known as mycelium, a kind of underground internet linking the roots of different plants across feet, miles, and through their pale sensate mesh across the entire planet. The mycelium is sentient. It knows that you are there. When you walk across landscapes, it leaps up in the aftermath of your footsteps trying to grab debris. The sentient mycelium leaps up in the aftermath of a visitor's footsteps when she walks near a pine tree in Auschwitz. In Oregon, the sentient mycelium feels this movement, receives this information, and leaps up in the aftermath of my footsteps as I walk near an old elm in my front yard. The sentient mycelium converts scapula shards to minerals for a pine tree. The pine tree creates new branches and needles to grow toward the sun, its main nutrient source, the same sun. The pine tree in Auschwitz receives water from the soil through root hairs by osmosis. A water molecule moves through the pine tree by capillary action and transpires from the leaves to the atmosphere by evaporation. This water molecule finds other water molecules and eventually condenses into a cloud. This cloud becomes part of the global jet stream, a fast-flowing, narrow, meandering air current that encircles the planet, linking the air in one place to the air everywhere. The cloud moves on this air current, morphing, moving faster, then slower, growing and shrinking like a lung, until conditions arise, a mountain range, a storm front, for the cloud to release its stored water in the form of precipitation. The water molecule that evaporated from the pine needle in Auschwitz is part of a raindrop that falls on my chin. This water molecule was derived from the human bones and terracotta tiles just beneath what used to be Block 25. This water molecule remembers the freezing pre-dawn day in February when a person stood wrapped in a blanket, a child, a little boy, a tiny shaven head, a face with jutting jaws and a salient superciliary arch. Barefoot, he jumps up and down ceaselessly with a frenzy like that of some barbaric dance. He also waves his arms to keep warm. The blanket slips open. It's a woman, a female skeleton. She is naked. Her ribs and pelvic bones are clearly visible. She pulls the blanket up to her shoulders while continuing to dance, the dance of an automaton, a dancing female skeleton. Her feet are small, gaunt, bare in the snow. There are living skeletons that dance. Bone, fat, human ash, bricks, orange tiles, brooches, hairbands, gold rings, spoons, worms, nematodes, identification tag of Leia Judith de la Penha, sand, soil, maggots, fungal hyphae, anico, piri, bacteria, rootlets, roots, blood, rock, rain. The living skeleton is dancing in the water that drips down my chin, still trying to stay warm as death closes in. Rosalie and I keep walking. We gather lightlessnesses, hold them to our skin. We gather all possible creases, cracks, shadowy folds, fissures, bulbs burnt out, candles guttered, eyes crushed or scabbed over with opaque skin. We gather these and spin them into lightless thread, make of them a cloth to pull tight around our skull. It clings, it holds. Or we stuff them in a pillowcase and dream them, make them bright air like alpenglow, or the sliver of air over a fast-moving creek at noon. Or we grind them into pure black dust, add seawater and spit, paint our face with them. We walk, dragging our bundle, tilting our painted face, feel the sun push all the darkness deep into the tunnels of our pores as it rises and rises and rises and tries again to burn. We keep walking. We steal rotted potatoes from the broken barn, deciding again that it's better to be shot than to starve with potatoes right there. We bury one potato per killed sister, per killed child in the frozen dirt. We stand and watch purple-green potato leaves open like bruised palms, watch lavender flowers bend and sway, a constant full moon. We keep walking. We rebolt the airplane wings, rivet after rivet. Our steel-dusted hands move slowly because we know this machine is a weapon, this labor not our own. We keep walking. We return to the potato plants, rip up each chalky root, write raw white words on the dark sky's grave. We keep walking. We sit down again on the cold dirt floor of the barracks bathroom, one endless night in Auschwitz, and we write whatever is possible to write amidst the creaking fir planks moving under the moth weight of starvation and the smell of burning flesh and the squealing rats and the constant sting of lice, the constant scraping out of thirst. We wrote, we write, we keep writing. And when the capo comes, we snatch back the poem snatched from our hands. We take back our naming, take back the way those words rhymed with prayer, as close as we would ever get to knowing how to pray. We take the poem back. We keep walking. When we are asked where we went after the war, we say nowhere. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Clap again. Thank you, Daniela. That was a beautiful reading. And
Oh
thank
my God, it was just kind of like so strange how much in conversation these two texts were.
Yeah, I know. Did you know that, Jay?
I
Did you have any idea?
I
Probably.
might have known that. Yes. Yes,
Yes, you did.
I did. Yep.
So that
Wow.
wasn't coincidental, but
Yeah.
yeah, we should talk. Poupeh.
No, it wasn't coincidental. Poupeh and Daniela, thank you so much. Let's give them one more round. Thank you. And thank you everybody out there for joining us for all of our evening readings. That concludes our evening reading of this residency. We will have a student reading in a couple nights that's just for our community. But thank you everybody for attending. And we'll see you tomorrow. We have Daniela Naomi Molnar giving a talk at 11, and Poupeh Missaghi's class is at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time.
Good
We'll
to
see
see
y'all.
you, Daniela. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing
thank
the
you.
space. Yeah, thanks.
Likewise.
Thank you, Poupeh, and thank you, Daniela. It was a really beautiful reading.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.